Welcome to another session of Searching the Words of Life. And as always, we'd like to start by letting people know what our goal is here. And that quite simply is to get people to open their Bibles. My opinions are mine. We're not asking anyone to take them as their own. The whole point of that would defeat what we're trying to do here. But I would like to get people to open their Bible to check me, just to see if, because they're opening their Bibles, so that would work out real well. Tonight, or this session, we're going to be talking about the love of Christ, and I'm going to read from Luke 14:26. Most people are familiar with this scripture. All right. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Now, we know that Jesus is not telling us to hate anyone, because that would be a sin, and he never sinned. He's trying to give us an example of how important it is for us to put him first, and as far as our love is concerned. Because, as I've said many times, the scriptures, all these apply to us. They are all there to edify us. And some of the scriptures are more important than others, and this happens to be an important one. And so we're going to talk about how this works. In my study of it, I came up with a little different version. I came up with the fact that in my mind, it says, if you want to know how to properly love those people in your life, you must love Jesus first. Because if you don't develop that love and apply it to yourself in your heart, let it grow in your heart, you're not going to be successful. Not going to be successful at all. Tell you how important it is. My marriage lasted 30 years. And after thinking about it for a while, I decided it was quite simply this. Neither my ex-wife or myself had put Jesus at the head of the table. He wasn't the most important thing in our lives. And after I did that, I went to both of my daughters, and I asked them a question. I said, do you want your marriage to last until you have your 50th anniversary and beyond? And they both said yes. And what I told them was, if you put Jesus first in your life, your marriage cannot fail. It's impossible. And you might say, well, how is that? And what is this love of Christ you're talking about? Well, if you want to know about the love of Christ, you just go to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. That'll give you everything you need to know about the love of Christ and how to apply it and what it does if you apply it to your life. And it's an absolute essential part to being a Christian. If you don't have it, if we don't put Jesus first, we're not going to be a part of his kingdom. We can't be his disciple. So it's vitally important that we understand this scripture and understand the seriousness of the situation. Jesus only gave one commandment. He only had one commandment of his own, and that was in John, and he told his disciples, love one another. And later on, he explained that not only to his apostles, but to all disciples, if you can have love and love one another, you'll be able to show that you're my disciple to the world. That is what we need to have in order, as we live our Christian lives, to prove that we do follow Jesus Christ. Well, and you might say, well, why is that? Quite simply, it's because it isn't very often seen. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone do something to help someone they never knew, to go out of the way to do whatever, and you knew that they were Christians? And that shouldn't be. I'm going to give you two examples of how this really works. And the first one is, I don't know if any of you listening to this ever watched the program America's Got Talent. I do from time to time. And there particular one night, there was a young lady, a 13-year-old teenager named Courtney Hadwin. And she had a performance that absolutely shocked the entire auditorium and the judges. In point of fact, in a few weeks later, she had 200 million hits on that. People finding about her and looking at her videos. Why? Why? Because she did something that they had never seen before. And what she did was quite simply is it was a throwback in a way. From my time, I remember it. But she sang in the method and the style of how rock and rollers did it in the 70s. Especially Janis Joplin. Now, I'm not I don't favor and never will hard rock. And the song she sang, I don't approve of. But her talent was unmistakable, and it was so impressive that 200 million people noticed it. Now that's the world. That's how the world looks at things. Let's see how it works on the Christian side of things. And I want to preface what I'm going to say here by I didn't do anything that was special in the story I'm about to tell you at all. But one day, the Lord blessed me with the opportunity to express a love of Christ for someone else. And it happened as I was driving east on 70, just about a half a mile from the exit ramp onto 270 South. I was in the right-hand lane. And I noticed the car in front of me was slowing down and slowing down. And I can remember as clear as if it was yesterday. Just as soon as her car stopped, I said, "Don't stop," because I knew I was too close to her. I'd have to back up to be able to get around her. Before I had a chance to think of anything like that, she got out of her car, and I'm thinking, "Don't get out of your car." And she walked up to my window, and I rolled my window down, and she said, "I'm lost. I don't know where I am. I need your help." And I said, "Okay, what you need to do right now is get back in your car, and then I'll be right over." And so I said, "Well, I've got to help her. I have to." But the devil's telling me, "Hey, you might get hit by a car or a semi," because they were whizzing by. It was 2:30 in the afternoon, and we were in a construction area about 100 yards from where the last curve is. But I said, "Let the Lord's will be done," like I'm supposed to. Got out, went over and talked to her. We figured out a plan real quick, and I was able to get her safely to an area which was close to where she lived. And she finally pulled into a Wendy's, and I said, "Don't you want me to come all the way with you to your home?" She said, "No, I know where I'm at now." And now notice, she was an elderly lady. She was probably in her 80s, but as sweet as she could be. But anyway, she looked up at me, and she said something remarkable that I really didn't expect. She said, "Jesus put you there for me." And I told her, ma'am, you're right. You know, I don't know her name. She doesn't know mine. And the only two people that were aware of what happened was her and me. And that's all it has to be. Because we don't need to have people see it all the time, but we have to live it all the time. So those are the two extremes. But they're absolutely essential that we be able to develop that love of Christ in our hearts so that we will know how to live our Christian life that are in a way that's pleasing to Jesus and in a way that will get us to heaven. Because that's what it's all about. Remember, God is love. Love is the important emotion here, brethren. And we need to have it in larger and larger amounts in our hearts. Well, I hope some of this will cause you to think about these scriptures. And I hope you have a good week, and God bless you.